My sister asked me to be in her engagement photos while trying to hide my wheelchair under a white tablecloth. She said she wanted me there, that I was family, that this moment wouldn't be complete without me. Then she brought a tablecloth, white, pristine, like everything else at that garden party. She tried to drape it over my legs, over the chair, as if I were furniture that didn't fit her vision. It wasn't the first time something like that happened. It just took me a while to notice the pattern. This started long before that engagement party. It started with a car accident, an accident I didn't cause, an accident that left me with a T10 spinal injury, no feeling below my waist, no ability to walk. For 2 years, my family had been asking me to be smaller, quieter, more convenient. They said it was for my own good. They said it was to protect the family. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you what happened, because the story doesn't end with a tablecloth. My sister was driving. She was texting her ex-boyfriend. I was in the passenger seat. I told her to watch the road. She said she had it under control. The tree came out of nowhere. Or maybe we came at it. I don't remember the impact, just the pain, the sirens, the knowledge that my life as I'd known it was over. When I woke up after surgery, I told my parents the truth. Charlotte was driving. She was texting. It was her fault. They asked me to lie. They said it would ruin Charlotte's life if people knew. They said the insurance would sue her. She might go to jail. I needed to protect my sister. So I said I'd been driving. I said I'd lost control. I took the blame for an accident I didn't cause. For 2 years, I lived with that lie. I accepted the blame. I endured Charlotte's cold shoulder, her pointed comments, her revised version of history. She told everyone I was drunk, that I'd crashed the car going too fast, that I was lucky to survive, that she'd tried to stop me. But I wouldn't listen. My parents never corrected her. They never defended me. They just asked me to keep the peace, to be the bigger person, to not rock the boat. At the engagement party, when Charlotte tried to hide my wheelchair, something inside me broke, not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly, like a thread snapping. I said no. And for the first time in 2 years, I meant it. But Charlotte wasn't finished. She wanted me in the family photos, but not in my wheelchair. She wanted me to sit in a regular chair, a pink ribbon banquet chair that required core strength I didn't have. Move the wheelchair somewhere else, she said sweetly. Sit on that chair. I want this photo to be uniform. I explained again that I had a T10 spinal injury, that I couldn't sit in a regular chair without support, that I would fall. You're just good at ruining things, she said. Then she leaned closer. You're jealous because I'm getting married and you're a cripple, right? The word hit me like a physical blow, not because I hadn't heard it before, but because it came from my own sister, from someone who was supposed to love me. Stand up, you fake, she hissed. And then she grabbed me. She used both hands to grip me under my left armpit. She yanked upward with a strength I didn't know she possessed. The jerk was violent, unexpected. It threw off what little balance I had. My hands scrambled for the armrests, but found only air. The world tilted. I was falling. The champagne tower was directly in front of me. An elaborate pyramid of crystal glasses, 7 levels high, probably cost more than my monthly rent. I hit it with my shoulder and chest. The entire structure came down. The sound was incredible. A cascading crash of breaking glass. Hundreds of shards exploded outward. I felt them slice into my hands, my face, my neck, my arms. My head snapped to the side, hitting the tile floor hard. Blood began to spread across the white tiles, mixing with champagne. I lay there, unable to move, afraid to move. My neck hurt. My head was ringing. And somewhere above me, I heard Charlotte's voice, high and hysterical. Oh my God, my $5,000 dress. You ruined my party. Not, are you okay? Not, someone help her. Just, you ruined my party. Someone gasped. Several people started to move forward, but a voice cut through the chaos. Stand still. Don't anyone touch her. The voice was female, authoritative, the kind of voice you obeyed without question. Through my blurred vision, I saw a woman drop her handbag and push past a waiter. She moved with purpose, with the confidence of someone who knew exactly what to do in an emergency. She knelt beside me in the puddle of wine and blood. Her hands were gentle but firm. She placed them on either side of my head, stabilizing my neck. Listen to me carefully, she said. Don't try to move. Don't turn your head. I'm going to hold you steady until the paramedics arrive. I knew that voice. Dr. Helen Kingsley. Grandstand. the chief of neurosurgery at Mount Sinai Hospital, the woman who had saved my life 24 months ago. "Doctor," she called out. Her sharp gaze found Grant in the crowd. "Call 911 immediately. Report a spinal injury and assault. Request police and an ambulance. Right now." "Assault?" Charlotte's voice went shrill. "What are you talking about?" She fell. It was an accident. But Dr. Kingsley wasn't looking at Charlotte. She was looking at me. "Madeline West," she said softly. "Just for me. I know you. I'm going to take care of you. You're safe now." And despite the pain, despite the blood, despite everything, I felt something inside me finally break free. I wasn't alone anymore. Dr. Kingsley looked up. Her voice was loud enough for everyone to hear. "Miss West, I am the one who personally drilled 8 pedicle screws into your sister's T10 and T11 vertebrae. That was 24 months ago at Mount Sinai Hospital. I know the structure of her shattered bones better than she does herself." A collective intake of breath from the crowd. "Do you want to debate medical knowledge with the chief of neurosurgery?" Dr. Kingsley continued. Her tone made it clear this was not actually a question. Silence from Charlotte. Blessed, beautiful silence. The confirmation from a top medical expert carried more weight than any of Charlotte's lies ever could. All of her whispered rumors throughout the party collapsed. The ones about Munchausen syndrome, about faking, about seeking attention. They collapsed like the champagne tower. From my position on the ground, I could see some of the guests. An elderly woman had her hand over her mouth, tears in her eyes. A younger couple stood frozen. And there, at the edge of my vision, was Grant. His face had gone completely white. Around us, whispers rippled through the crowd. "Did you see what she did? She pulled her right out of the wheelchair. That poor girl. Will she be okay?" Someone said the sister was texting during the car accident too. "Is it true?" 2 police officers arrived with the ambulance. I watched as they approached Charlotte. "Ma'am, we need to ask you some questions about the incident." Charlotte's face was a mask of barely contained panic. "It was an accident. I was just trying to help her sit down for the photo. She's my sister. I would never." "I saw what happened." The voice came from an older man in a gray suit. He stepped forward, his expression grave. I was standing less than 2 meters away. "My name is Lucas Chambers." I clearly saw her use both hands to grab her sister. She pulled hard with intent. That was not accidental. She deliberately caused this girl to fall. That is assault. The testimony of this independent witness was ironclad evidence. An unbiased observer. A respected businessman. Someone with no reason to lie. The female police officer's expression hardened. "Ma'am, given the witness testimony and the victim's injuries, you need to come with us to the station. We need to question you regarding an assault charge." "What?" "No. You can't take me. It's my engagement party." But the officers moved forward. When Charlotte tried to turn and run, they grabbed her arms. The handcuffs clicked into place. Charlotte started to cry. Not delicate tears. Ugly, snotty sobs that made her mascara run in black rivers down her face. As the police led her toward the patrol car, she kept looking back at Grant, at our parents, at anyone who might intercede. But the crowd parted for her, everyone stepping back to avoid being associated with her downfall. Most importantly, Grant stood silent. He didn't defend her. He and his family turned their backs on Charlotte. That was the moment I realized something. She was no longer untouchable. For 24 months, Charlotte had been protected by the family narrative, by Mom and Dad's insistence that we keep the peace, by their willingness to sacrifice my truth for her comfort. But this was public. This was witnessed. This was documented. This was finally real. I chose to press charges. I chose to tell the truth. I chose to stop protecting someone who had never protected me. Some people say I'm cruel, that I'm destroying my family. But after 2 years of silence, after 2 years of being erased, I chose to speak. Am I the asshole? Let me tell you what happened next. Because the story doesn't end with Charlotte's arrest. It was only the beginning. The paramedics loaded me onto a stretcher. Dr. Kingsley climbed into the ambulance with me. "I'm coming with you," she said, in a tone that brooked no argument. "We're going to make sure you're okay. And then we're going to make sure justice is served." The ambulance doors closed. We pulled away to the sound of sirens. I closed my eyes and let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. 2 days later, I lay in a private recovery room at Charleston County General, a concussion protocol band around my wrist. Approximately 30 stitches holding my skin together. The imaging had come back clean. No new spinal damage. Thank God. Just the soft tissue injuries and the head trauma. Dr. Kingsley had pulled strings to get me the private room, refusing to let me be placed in a shared ward where reporters might find me. Because yes, there were reporters. Society bride assaults disabled sister at engagement party had made the local news. Someone had filmed the whole thing on their phone. The video clearly showed Charlotte grabbing me and pulling. The news stations had blurred my face, but not Charlotte's. Her breakdown, her arrest, her ruined dress, all of it captured in high definition and shared thousands of times. I should have felt vindicated, triumphant, something. Instead, I mostly felt tired. The hospital room door opened. I expected a nurse. Instead, Grant walked in, looking like he hadn't slept in days. "Madeline?" he said, his voice hoarse. "I am so sorry. I didn't know. I swear to God I didn't know." I believed him. Grant was many things, but he wasn't a good liar. "She told me you were drunk," he continued, "that you crashed the car into a tree going too fast, that you were lucky to survive, that she'd tried to stop you from driving, but you wouldn't listen. She said you blamed her to avoid taking responsibility. The revised history, the sanitized version. I'd heard it so many times from my parents that I almost believed it myself sometimes. I wasn't drunk," I said quietly. "I don't drink. I never have. Ballet dancers don't. I know that now," Grant said. "I know a lot of things now." The door opened again. This time it was Dr. Kingsley, carrying a manila folder. "Grant? Good. You're here. Madeline? I have something to show both of you." She opened the folder and pulled out several pages. Medical records. The ones from my original surgery. 24 months ago. Dr. Kingsley began. Her voice took on the clinical tone of someone presenting evidence. "I performed an emergency spinal fusion surgery on Madeline West. She was brought in by ambulance after a single car accident. The vehicle, a Jeep Wrangler, had hit a tree at approximately 40 miles per hour. She handed one page to Grant. "This is the toxicology report. It shows Madeline's blood alcohol level at the time of the accident." Grant read it, his eyes widening. 0.0. Completely sober. The police report indicated that the driver, Charlotte West, had been texting while driving. She lost control on a curb. Dr. Kingsley's expression was carved from ice. Madeline was in the passenger seat. She never touched the wheel. "Wait," Grant said. "Charlotte was driving?" "Charlotte was driving," I confirmed. "She was texting her ex-boyfriend, the one before you. They were having some kind of fight about whether they were really broken up or just on a break." She kept looking at her phone instead of the road. I told her to stop, to pull over. But she said she had it under control. The memory was crystalline, preserved in perfect detail. The blue glow of the phone screen. Charlotte's thumb typing furiously. My own voice saying, "Charlotte, please, watch the road." The sickening lurch as the wheels left the pavement. The tree getting bigger and bigger in the windshield. And then nothing but pain and sirens and the knowledge that my life as I'd known it was over. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" Grant asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "I tried," I said. "When I first woke up after surgery, I told my parents what happened. They said it would ruin Charlotte's life if people knew she'd caused it. They said the insurance would sue her, that she might go to jail, that I needed to protect my sister. They convinced me to say I'd been driving, that I'd lost control." "Jesus Christ," Grant muttered. "My parents have always protected Charlotte," I continued. "When we were kids, it was small stuff. She'd break something, blame me, and they'd believe her. As we got older, it got worse. She'd steal money from my wallet, lie to my friends, sabotage my dance auditions by hiding my shoes or telling me the wrong time. But they always made excuses for her. She was stressed. She didn't mean it. I was being too sensitive." Dr. Kingsley closed the folder with a sharp snap. "What Charlotte did at that engagement party was assault. What your parents did 24 months ago was coercion and insurance fraud. The statute of limitations hasn't run out on either." Grant looked like he might be sick. "I almost married her. I almost." "How did I not see it? Narcissists are excellent performers," Dr. Kingsley said, not unkindly. "They show you exactly what you want to see, until it's too late." We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of revelation settling over us. The door burst open. No knock, no warning. My parents rushed in like a storm surge. "Madeline," Mom grabbed my hand, squeezing too hard. "Oh, thank God you're okay." Dad positioned himself at the foot of the bed. We've been so worried. He came as soon as we heard. They hadn't visited yesterday. They hadn't called to check on me. But now that Charlotte needed something, here they were. We need you to do something, Mom said, her eyes red-rimmed but dry. No actual tears, I noted. Just the performance of crying. It's very important. Here it comes, I thought. Madeline, please drop the charges, Dad said. Call the police and say you slipped. Say your sister was just trying to help you up. If you don't sue, they will release your sister. There it was. The ask. The demand disguised as a plea. Mom squeezed my hand again, her grip almost painful. She's your sister, Madeline. Family protects family. You know she didn't mean it. She was just stressed about the wedding. And you know how you can be. How I can be, I repeated flatly. You know what I mean. Difficult. Stubborn. You insisted on bringing that black wheelchair when she'd asked everyone to keep things light and pretty. The wheelchair I need to move, I said. Well, yes. But you could have tried harder to match the color scheme. Maybe put some ribbons on it or something. And then to refuse to sit in the chair for the photo when she was just trying to include you. I pulled my hand away from Mom's grip. She assaulted me. There's video. There are witnesses. Witnesses can be mistaken, Dad said quickly. It all happened so fast. People see what they want to see. This was the moment I'd been waiting for, the moment I'd been preparing for. I let my expression crumble, let myself look weak and overwhelmed. I shook my head wearily, feigning helplessness. Mom, Dad, I said, my voice thin and tired. This isn't about what I want anymore. The police have the video. They have the witnesses. They have the medical examiner's report. This is a criminal case between the state and Charlotte. I am not the judge. I don't control what happens now. It was true, technically. Once assault charges were filed by the state, the victim couldn't just make them disappear. But my parents didn't understand the legal system well enough to know that. They thought everything could be fixed with the right words, the right pressure, the right manipulation. My parents exchanged a look. I could see the wheels turning. They thought I was powerless. That the problem lay only with the witness and the law, not with my will. They thought they had found a loophole. We understand, Mom said, patting my arm with forced sympathy. You're tired. You've been through so much. We'll let you rest. They left without asking how I was feeling, without apologizing for what Charlotte had done, without acknowledging that their golden child had publicly assaulted their other daughter at an engagement party. Grant, who had remained silent during their visit, stared at the closed door. Are they serious? They want you to lie for her. After everything? They always want me to lie for her, I said simply. Dr. Kingsley, who had also stayed quiet, now moved to the window. She pulled out her phone and made a call. Richard? Helen Kingsley. I need you to do something for me. There's a witness to an assault case. The engagement party incident you've been hearing about. Yes, that one. I need you to make sure he knows his rights and his protections. Someone might try to convince him to change his statement. She hung up and turned back to us. Richard is my attorney. He's going to make sure our witness understands what witness tampering is and how to report it if anyone tries. You think they'll try? Grant asked. I know they will, I said. They're desperate. Charlotte's facing serious charges. How serious? Grant asked. Dr. Kingsley pulled up something on her phone. Assault and battery causing bodily harm to a disabled person. That's an aggravating factor. With the video evidence, the witness testimony, and Madeline's documented injuries, the prosecutor is talking about a potential 10-year sentence. Grant went pale. 10 years? She pushed a paraplegic woman into a tower of glass. Dr. Kingsley said coldly. She could have killed her. She could have severed Madeline's spinal cord completely. 10 years is appropriate. Silence settled over the room. I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of exhaustion pulling me under. The painkillers they'd given me were making everything soft around the edges. Rest? Dr. Kingsley said gently. I'll make sure no one bothers you tonight. I drifted off to sleep, and for the first time in 2 years, I didn't dream about the accident. The next morning, I woke to hushed voices outside my door. I recognized my father's tone, aggressive, demanding, and a calmer voice responding. After a few minutes, Dad's voice faded away. Grant appeared in the doorway, looking grim. Your parents were here. The security guard sent them away. Dr. Kingsley left instructions that only approved visitors could come in. What did they want? To talk to me, Grant said. He pulled up a chair and sat down heavily. Madeline, They asked me to do something unconscionable. I waited. They want me to convince the witness to change his story. The man who saw Charlotte grab you, his name is Lucas Chambers. He's a business partner of mine. Your parents somehow found out about our connection. Grant's hands were clenched into fists. They asked me to talk to him, to suggest that maybe he'd been mistaken about what he saw, that maybe he'd been too far away to really tell, that maybe it would be better for everyone if he just said he wasn't sure anymore. And? I asked, though I already knew the answer. I told them to get the hell out of my sight, Grant said. Do they understand what they were asking me to do? That's witness tampering. That's a federal felony. I could lose my license, my career, everything. He looked at me with something like horror. I didn't realize your entire family was this rotten. Not my entire family, I said quietly. Just most of it. Grant stood up and started pacing. I've already called Lucas. Warned him that someone might try to contact him and pressure him to change his statement. He's furious. He's talking about filing harassment charges if they try. They will try, I said. They'll find a way. They always do. But even as I said it, I felt a small spark of hope, because this time they were trapped. This time there were too many witnesses, too much evidence, too many people who knew the truth. This time their usual tactics wouldn't work. They had taken the bait. They had just single-handedly drowned their last hope. I was alone, staring at the ceiling, when my phone rang. Unknown number. Ems West? This is Jessica Hart from Hartwell and Associates. I'm the attorney who's been assigned to your case. My case? The assault case against your sister, Charlotte West. I wanted to touch base with you about the proceedings and discuss some developments. I sat up straighter, ignoring the pull of stitches. What kind of developments? Your sister's defense attorney reached out this morning. They'd like to negotiate a plea deal. My heart started pounding. What kind of plea deal? They're concerned about the strength of the prosecution's case. The video evidence is damning. The witness testimony is solid. And the aggravating factors mean your sister is looking at significant prison time if this goes to trial. Assault on a disabled person, causing serious bodily injury. How much time? The prosecutor is confident they can get 10 years. Maybe more. Given the public nature of the assault and the clear premeditation. 10 years. A decade of Charlotte's life. She'd be 41 when she got out. Middle-aged. Her youth, her beauty, her prime years all spent in a cell. I should have felt triumphant, vindicated. Instead, I felt complicated. What are they offering? I asked. If you agree to submit a victim impact statement requesting leniency, and if you're willing to tell the judge that you believe your sister can be rehabilitated, they're willing to plead guilty to a reduced charge, aggravated assault, instead of assault with intent to cause serious bodily harm. With your statement and a guilty plea, she'd likely serve 2 years, maybe less with good behavior. 2 years instead of 10. Still prison, still consequences, but not life-destroying. There's a catch, M's Hart continued. They want restitution. Full restitution for your medical expenses, pain and suffering, and punitive damages. They're proposing a total of $420,000. I nearly dropped the phone. $420,000? Your medical bills from the current hospitalization alone are close to $60,000. Add in the lost wages, the therapy you'll need, the pain and suffering from the assault itself, and punitive damages for the emotional distress. It's actually quite reasonable. Some lawyers would push for double that. But my parents, they don't have that kind of money. That's their problem, not yours, M's Hart said calmly. If they want this plea deal, they pay. If they don't pay, we go to trial, and your sister does the full 10 years. When would they need to pay by? The preliminary hearing is scheduled for next week. They need to wire the full amount into our trust account before that hearing. 7 days from now. 7 days to come up with $420,000. It was impossible. My parents lived comfortably, but not lavishly. Dad was a middle manager at an insurance company. Mom worked part-time at a boutique. They had a nice house, a sailboat, their retirement savings, but nearly $500,000 in cash. Ems West, I need to know, are you willing to submit the leniency statement if they meet the financial terms? Was I. 2 years in prison wouldn't destroy Charlotte's life completely. She'd survive it. Maybe it would even change her. Force her to confront the consequences of her actions. 10 years, though. That was different. That was life-altering in ways that couldn't be undone. And the money, $420,000, would set me up for life. I could afford the medical equipment I needed, the therapy, the modifications to whatever home I ended up in. I could live independently, not have to rely on disability payments and charity. Yes, I said finally. If they pay the full restitution by the deadline, I'll submit this statement. Good, M's heart said. I'll let them know. 1 week, M's West. The clock is ticking. My parents showed up that evening, looking haggard. Dad's face was gray. His shoulders slumped. Mom had aged 10 years and 3 days. $420,000. Dad said without preamble. That's what they're demanding. That's what the lawyer calculated, I said neutrally. We don't have that kind of money, Mom said, her voice breaking. We've been to the bank. We've called everyone we know. We can't just. You can liquidate your $401K, I said calmly. I checked. Between both of your retirement accounts, you have about $280,000. With the early withdrawal penalties and taxes, you'd net maybe $200,000. You can sell the sailboat, not on the market, but to a wholesaler or liquidator. They'll give you cash instantly, but at a fraction of the value. That's another $100,000 if you're lucky. For the rest, there are hard money lenders who fund against home equity in days, not weeks. The silence was deafening. That's our retirement, Dad finally said. That's everything we've worked for our entire lives. Selling to liquidators? Hard money loans? We'll lose 50% of the value on everything. We'll be ruined. And my spine is broken, I said, my voice hard. My career is gone. My life as I knew it is over. Because Charlotte was texting while driving, and you made me lie about it. Because you've protected her and enabled her and sacrificed me for her comfort my entire life. We did what we thought was best for the family, Mom whispered. You did what was easiest for Charlotte, I corrected. You always have. And now you get to decide what's more important, your retirement fund or your daughter's freedom. Dad's face went red. You're really going to do this? You're really going to destroy your own family? I'm not destroying anything, I said. Charlotte destroyed this family the moment she grabbed me and threw me into that glass tower. I'm just refusing to lie about it anymore. You pay the restitution. I sign the leniency statement. Charlotte does 2 years instead of 10. Everyone walks away. Everyone except us. Dad spat. We'll have nothing. No retirement, no savings, no boat. You'll have your house and your jobs and your health, I said. That's more than Charlotte left me with. Mom started crying. Real tears this time, not the performed ones. How can you be so cruel? I learned from the best, I said. They left without another word. For the next week, I watched the clock. I stayed in the hospital longer than necessary, partially because Dr. Kingsley insisted on monitoring me for complications, partially because I had nowhere else to go. My apartment was a 3rd-floor walk-up with no elevator. I'd been staying with my parents before the engagement party. That option was clearly off the table now. Grant visited daily, bringing food and keeping me company. He'd officially broken off the engagement, returning the ring to his mother and telling Charlotte's lawyer that there would be no reconciliation. His parents had even offered to help me find an accessible apartment, a gesture that brought me to tears. Dr. Kingsley checked in regularly, updating me on Charlotte's status. She was out on bail, staying with our parents, apparently having a breakdown that involved screaming and throwing things and blaming everyone but herself. On the 6th day, my lawyer called. They're doing it, M's heart said. Your father liquidated both 401K this morning, took a massive hit on the penalties. They also drove the sailboat to a marine salvage dealer. They practically gave it away for immediate cash, fire sale price. And they signed papers with a high-interest lender this afternoon for the gap funds. Will they make it? If the wire's clear? Barely. It'll be close. On the 7th day, the day of the deadline, I sat in the hospital room with my phone in my lap, watching the clock. The deadline was 5 p.m. At 4:47 p.m., my lawyer called. The wire just cleared, she said. $420,000, paid in full. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. I'll draft your victim impact statement tonight. You'll need to sign it tomorrow, and we'll submit it to the judge. The plea hearing is scheduled for Friday. Okay, I said. M's West, Madeline. This is the right thing. You're giving her a chance to make things right. That's more than most people would do. After she hung up, I sat in the silence of the hospital room and thought about the cost of family. My parents had paid $420,000 to save Charlotte from a decade in prison. They'd lost their retirement, their sailboat, their financial security. They'd taken on predatory debt they'd spend years paying off, all for Charlotte. They'd never once offered to help me with medical bills, never offered to pay for the wheelchair that had taken me 2 years to save for, never offered anything but demands that I be smaller, quieter, more convenient. I remembered something my grandmother used to say, a phrase I'd heard as a child but never understood. The door to the heart must be closed when trust is broken. I'd always thought it was about protecting yourself from strangers, from people who would hurt you. But now I understood. It was about protecting yourself from the people who were supposed to love you, from the people who had already broken your trust. The door to the heart must be closed when trust is broken. I understood now. I understood completely. The money hit my lawyer's trust account. I signed the plea for leniency. 2 days later, Charlotte stood before a judge and pleaded guilty to aggravated assault. She was sentenced to 2 years in a state correctional facility, with the possibility of parole after 18 months with good behavior. My victim impact statement was read aloud in court. I wrote about the pain, the betrayal, the lifetime of being erased and diminished. But I also wrote that I believed in the possibility of change, that I hoped my sister would use this time to reflect and grow, that I wanted justice but not vengeance. I didn't attend the hearing. I watched from my hospital room via video link. I saw Charlotte's face when the sentence was handed down. Shock, disbelief, and finally, for the first time I could remember, something that might have been genuine remorse. My parents sat behind her, holding hands, their faces masks of grief. Grant sat in the back of the courtroom. When it was over, he looked directly at the camera and nodded once. A goodbye, a thank you, an acknowledgement that some things, once broken, cannot be repaired. The money was transferred from the trust account to my personal account, $420,000. More money than I'd ever imagined having. I used some of it to pay off my medical debts, some to secure a beautiful, accessible apartment in a building with an elevator and wide doorways, some to set up a trust fund for future medical needs. And then I did something I'd never thought I'd have the courage to do. I cut off all contact with my parents. I blocked their numbers, returned their letters unopened. When they showed up at my new apartment, I didn't answer the door. They'd made their choice. They'd always made their choice. Now I was making mine. I took that money, and I started a new life. 18 months have passed since the courtroom gavel fell. Today, I'm sitting on a sun-drenched beach in the south of France. For the first time in 42 months, I don't feel like I'm drowning. The Mediterranean stretches out before me, impossibly blue, the kind of color that doesn't exist in Charleston. The sand is warm beneath my left hand where I've braced myself against the wheelchair. My matte black carbon chair, the same one Charlotte tried to hide under that tablecloth, sits proudly in the sunlight now. I'm not hiding anymore. The $420,000 restitution money changed everything. Not because money fixes paralysis. It doesn't. And anyone who tells you otherwise is selling something. But because it bought me choices. Real choices. Not the scraps my family used to offer me with their pitying smiles. And their maybe next year, Madeline promises. I used a significant portion of it to fund experimental treatment at the Zurich Neuroscience Research Institute. Cutting-edge neural chip implant technology. The kind of thing that makes neurologists either excited or skeptical, with very little middle ground. Dr. Kingsley, bless her pragmatic heart, had given me the contact information with a simple, "It's worth trying." No guarantees. But the research is promising. The medical result wasn't some miraculous stand-up and walk moment like you see in the movies. Recovery never works that way, no matter what the Hallmark Channel tells you. But 3 weeks ago, during one of my focused visualization exercises, something happened. My right big toe twitched, just slightly, barely a millimeter of movement. But I felt it, a tingling current of electricity that ran down my calf, following neural pathways that had been dark and silent for 42 agonizing months. The first real sensation below my T10 injury since the Jeep rolled. I had stared at my foot for a full minute, convinced I'd imagined it. Then I did it again, and again. Each time, that tiny twitch, that whisper of reconnection between my brain and my body. Madeline, did you see that? Marie, the 35-year-old woman sitting in the beach chair next to me, had been watching during one of my exercises yesterday. When my toe moved, she screamed in delight, launching herself out of her seat to grab my shoulders. She hugged me so tightly I couldn't breathe, crying even louder than I was. Marie, my found family. I met her at the Research Institute in Switzerland. She'd been volunteering there, helping patients navigate the foreign medical system, translating German medical jargon into understandable English, and generally being the kind of human that restores your faith in humanity. She told me she'd cared for her paralyzed sister for 10 years, before she passed away from complications. When she met me, Marie said I reminded her of her sister. Same stubborn determination, same dark humor about our circumstances, same refusal to be defined by our limitations. For me, Marie filled a void I didn't even know how desperately I needed filled. She became the caring, understanding, protective sister I never had, the sister Charlotte could never be. My phone vibrates in the bag hanging off my wheelchair. I almost ignore it. I've gotten good at ignoring things that don't serve me. But something makes me check. An email from Mom. The subject line is empty, but there's an attachment, a photo of a handwritten letter. My stomach tightens as I open it. The handwriting is Charlotte's. Still that perfect Catholic school cursive. Even after 2 years in prison, she was released early last week for good behavior. According to Mom's brief message, Charlotte refused to move back in with our parents. Instead, she found a small town somewhere in the Midwest, got a job as a server at a bakery, rents a tiny apartment above a hardware store. The letter itself is short. Madeline, I'm sorry for taking your legs and your life's dream. I don't expect you to forgive me. The days in prison helped me understand how terrible I was. I am learning to be a decent human being from zero. Live well, Madeline. I read it twice. Then a third time. My heart feels light, not because of the apology. Words are cheap, and Charlotte's words were always prettiest when they meant the least. But because I realize, sitting here with the sun on my face and Marie humming beside me, that I don't care anymore. No more resentment burning in my chest. No more imagining what I'd say to her if I saw her again. No more rage keeping me awake at night. But also no need to reconnect. No obligation to rebuild something that was never really there. Charlotte is learning to be a decent human being. Good for her. She can do that without me. I turn off my phone and drop it into my bag, leaving the past exactly where it belongs. Marie, I say, beaming at her. Let's go get ice cream. My treat. Marie laughs. This full-bodied, joyful sound that makes strangers turn and smile. She stands, moving behind my wheelchair. Let's go, little sister. She pushes me along the coastal path, and our laughter blends with the sound of the ocean waves. The breeze tastes like salt and freedom. This is my real family. This is my real life. And damn, it feels good. I quietly closed the door. Finally, I could breathe. If you found value in this story, I hope you'll consider subscribing to this channel. We explore stories about boundaries, self-worth, and the quiet strength it takes to walk away from situations that no longer serve us. Thank you for listening, and thank you for being part of this community.